Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to the Global Party 2017, Healing from the Inside Out. And we have the great pleasure of having a conversation about the healed heart with Ray Luskin today. Hi, Ray.
Hi. Good morning.
And Ray is, where are you in the U.S., Ray?
I am in the suburbs of Chicago. It's a place called Deerfield, Illinois.
Deerfield, Illinois. So you're in Oprah's territory. So
Yep.
where it all began, way back when. Okay, so I know Chicago's known for much more than that. But hey, when we were talking about a piece of music that inspired or brought peace to Ray, I asked her and she said?
I said it's Karen Drucker's song, I Believe, in you. So because I believe we all have the power to heal ourselves, that we are all beautiful human beings, that we're magnificent and brilliant inside. And that's part of my message.
Well, that message right there was just so powerful. I could feel the intensity and the love coming straight from your heart. So we're in for a beautiful treasure of wisdom. Hold on and we'll listen to a little of the song.
Okay.
I see the joy that's in you. I see your light shining through. I see the love that's in you. So it is. I can see it. It's right there before me. I can feel it deep in my soul. I just know it, that you are an angel full of magic and power and pure sweet love. I see the grace that's in you. I see the courage in you. I see the heart that's in you. And so it is. And I see the beauty in you. I see the power in you. I see the greatness in you. And so it is.
I love that song, and it just, there are very few people that I buy CDs from these days, but I still have one of her CDs. Well, I have two of her CDs. One I leave at home and one I put in my car. So it's like that uplifting song, and she has some other ones that just, when I need to say no, she has this one about, saying yes to yourself and saying no to other people. It's like one of those two that I love.
No, it's beautiful, and it just sets the tone from moving from this whole idea that living up here in the mind and just resonating here in the heart. So how did you actually have your transformation, or that aha? Was it one moment or a series of that led you to having a healed heart and sharing that with others?
I think it was a series, really. I mean, I'll just tell you quickly my backstory. I was sexually abused as a child from age 7 to 13. And I didn't tell anybody. Again, there were no Oprah shows. There were no after-school specials. Nobody talked about it. And it's certainly not in my family. Whatever happens here stays here. So I didn't say anything. And he was a pillar of the community, philanthropist. It's like, who believed me, right?
Right.
So eventually, I put on this brave face, this mask, and I went off into the world. I went to college, and I got to college, and I was a senior in college, and I said I was either dancing on tables or writing death poetry. I knew I was in serious trouble, so I dropped out of school. Didn't go over well with my family at that point, but I did go back, and I actually have a master's, but it was like, that was the beginning of my journey. So I went to traditional talk therapy, and I was in and out of that for over 12 years. Now I got healthy enough to get married, have 2 wonderful kids. But what happened was I never felt it. I never felt inside that wholeness, that I'm beautiful, that I have, I was still wounded. It just didn't matter. The talk therapy wasn't working. And I'd get my kids off to school, and I crawl back in bed, and I sort of curl up in fetal position, and one day, and I kept thinking about I wanted to die. And so I made a list, why should I live and why should I die? The die one was huge, this is how I was hurt, the victim mentality, everything in my life that went wrong. On the other side were my kids. And that was the live side, and that was, okay, I'm making a decision, and I took charge of my own healing. And that was like, I was 35 by that time. And so it was, okay, Ray, now what are you going to do about this? And I became what I call a self-help junkie. I mean, I traveled the world looking for healers, trying all different modalities. I was an adventurer, and especially in Chicago at that time, there was nobody doing any of this other work. Gratitude, Oprah was just starting to talk about it, but it was not big. Forgiveness work, all the body work, anything that, outside of the realm of traditional talk therapy, there wasn't really much here. And so I was the person who literally, over the years read 1,000 self-help books, but I didn't just read them. I wrote answers to every one of the questions. I had journals coming up, enveloping me.
Right.
And so that was really the beginning of my journey. And then I actually did find a therapist who said, you need to paint. And I'll tell you, my grandfather was an artist, and he was teaching, and this abuse happened in his art studio. So in college, I had gone and I was taking a painting class because it was always Ray, Rembrandt, and Rubens. I was that person, and I was going to be this great artist. And this professor says to me, you're a terrible painter. Stop. Get out of my class. He threw me out of his class. And I didn't know at the time I was having flashbacks. I didn't know what those were, so I stopped painting for almost 12 years. And so this therapist saying, you've got to get back. I said, no, I'm resisting. And so eventually I started with scribbles and doodles, literally just getting out crayons and scribbling. And all of a sudden it was like this major release. I mean, I didn't know about somatic response. I didn't know that how we carried pain and trauma in our cells. And that by releasing this and I didn't need words to do it. It was like this shift in my body and my mind and my soul. And so that was the beginning. That was the biggest aha, I think, that led me through this path.
Wow. That is like, I can just feel the people that are listening now, recognizing that, they're going, yeah, that journaling thing never worked, or that talking thing never worked, but they always knew that they needed to feel validated. And I feel that that's what's really coming out in the world now, is how important art was, because it really took a back seat to earning money and the structures and the systems and the traditional jobs. So even if you were a creative, you felt like you weren't worthy.
Right. I mean, there's all the myth, the starving artists, they must be crazy if they're doing that. There's all this negativity around it. In my own family, art was, you were a dilettante, it would never be a career. Don't bother, don't think about it, but I'm not even looking at that. I look at it as self-expression. How are you going to express yourself in the world? It could be through painting, through music, through dance, photography, sculpture, whatever form, gardening, whatever lights you up from the inside and gives you a chance to be whole. I mean, and use all of your senses. It's not just being up in your head. And I think that's what all the arts do. They allow you to create and move and come from deep in your heart rather than your head. And that's a hard connection to make. I mean, especially when you don't feel safe in the world. I think that's one of those big pieces. It's like, how do you, one of my later healers, even just in the last 10 years, I still carried around, it's not a friendly world. It's not a safe world. And this coach said to me, what if you just made a decision and said it's a safe world? Well, all this stuff came up and I had to write and journal and draw about it. But it was this major shift in me. Again, one of those pieces like, oh, it is. And I still go back and forth. My current coach, I'll have, moments of lack of faith, and stuff. But I think it's so important. How do we surrender? And I think art is one of those pieces. How I say surrender to the art,
Yeah, no, I'm with you, because I actually had a history. I was 3 generations of sexual abuse, and I was raped and strangled to the point of a near-death experience when I was 10 and a half. So I can recognize what you're saying about the stuff that you carry, because you take it on and saying like, I can handle it, because that's push it all down and away you go. But the heart opening, surrendering, trusting, it is calling to be healed. And that's why we called it the healed heart, with the art, because it's art that has healed your heart. And so is it as you were, you started the doodling and thing, and then the painting, did you discover that sort of, is it with each part of yourself came out in the painting, Or how did that healing?
Well, I would say for me that yes, I healed through the actual painting. I watched myself when I was painting, because once I got beyond the scribbles and doodles, I did these real pieces that were powerful. This person behind me touching my breast, I had to go through every one of my paintings was dark, very dark, or then it was muddy colors. And I watched as I healed my, it wasn't all about me. It became about other people, and the colors lightened. They went to more jewel tones and pastels. And so I could watch my progress. And right now I'm into this place that I want to share the beauty of art, and the paintings I'm doing are all bright and colorful pretty much now. I'm calling this series I've been working on since last year, Rediscovering the Divine Feminine. And it's sort of like going inside. But again, I have my own issues, and I'm like, I had this person who just said, why aren't your pieces in this art show? And I just put them in, but I had to be nudged, It's like, I forget that other people need to see and hear what I'm doing, because then it gives them permission to do it as well. Yeah. So does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I think what you just shared is so relevant for people. And I want to just go over that, is about when you first started painting, it was all dark. And I have a firm belief, and I believe I'm convinced of, that when we absorb an issue, right? Because I remember when I started to recall things, I literally thought about wanting to go out and, killing somebody else and, mutilate them.
Oh, yeah.
And I was saying, wow, if I didn't have the knowledge or the awareness of what I was going through, so all these people that have all these issues that go on in their life, they just want to get this evil energy out of them, right? And I think that's what we have to realize, is that we are a being of vibration, and we pick up on good vibrations and we pick up on negative vibrations, and we don't like the negative vibrations. We don't like the hurt and the pain, so we have to get it out somehow. And
right.
when we elevate ourselves as society to realize, that person is releasing their pain, right? And it's still, we can have our boundaries, we're still having the boundaries, right. But we're aware that that's got to come out before the good can really heal their heart.
Right. And I think that, whether it's through music, I know I've talked to many, many creative activists, so that's what I call them. One is Michael Skinner, and he's a musician. He talked about how his music and his lyrics were really dark. And as he got healthier, they changed. It doesn't matter. And I think, you acknowledge that we have this darkness and the rage and the anger. And I did all these other exercises that I had to do to get through that. I mean, I worked with what I called my anger lady, and she had this technique called Radex, and she had a padded room, and I would drive an hour once a week to her place, and she had me do all these exercises where I'm kicking and screaming and hitting the walls and doing whatever I had to do to just another layer. And then I had my own, I bought a punching bag for my son, but I was the only one who ever used it, in the basement. But I'd use a bat, and I'd go like, I'd scream and yell. And, I lived on the train tracks, so I would wait till the train would go by, and I'd scream at the top of my lungs, because I'm afraid they were going to think I'm hurting my kids,
Exactly.
So, yeah, so we have to acknowledge and find different ways to release it. And, one of the exercises, and this sounds really horrible to some people, but this really worked for me. And people, when they do it, they realize it. And it's called Destroy and Create. And so what I do is I imagine the person who hurt me the worst. I either, I'm throwing them in a microwave, I'm chopping off their head, I'm doing whatever I have to do to imagine them, but then I recreate them in their most holy self, so that I see them whole. I could not, the original exercises I learned, it was just leave them there, and walk away. But that's not who I am. I need to see them whole and beautiful in the essence of their goodness. And then I can have a dialogue with them. And that's part of my work of leading up to forgiveness and all those kind of things. So those were some of the things I used.
See, this is such important information. Like, it really is, because you have to find, right? Like, you had to find what works for you. You were like ahead of the sort of self-development, personal, like, I mean, this conversation now that's out there on the internet, you and I can go, well, yeah, we knew about that, like,
right
ago, right?
Right.
Right. And this is not new, but it's so wonderful that it's more in conversation. But
yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was going to write a book. Well, I was going to write the first memoir of its type. This is before memoirs came out, about using art for healing and my my poetry and my journaling and all this. And I wrote this book, and I took it to the premier healers of the time, Joan Borysenko, Larry Dossey. It was one of these art and soul things, and even it was, what's his name, from Sounds True, Tom something. But I'm showing them my work, and they all said, this is nice, but it's not enough. I'll talk about, it's like, okay, so my master's is in urban planning, so I knew how to write a questionnaire. So I sent it out and the book title was going to be Odyssey of Healing, Survivor to Thriver. So I sent out questionnaires. I got 150 responses, and I started hand tabulating this because I didn't own a computer or anything at that time. And, and the stories were so rich. It was a beautiful thing. I mean, one woman healed herself she rehabbed homes, and every room in the home became a part of her soul, those kind of stories. And I had all this, and it really honored my belief that we needed more than talk therapy at that point. We needed these other tools. We needed body, mind, spirit, and and the idea of forgiveness, and the idea of gratitude, and the idea of spirituality in our lives to heal. And it validated everything. But unfortunately, at that point, I didn't have the self-esteem or the tools or the help, the support to take me to the next level. Because every time I started to write that book, who do you think you are? Why would anybody listen to you? Why, so I never wrote that book. Yeah. And now I contributed to other books, and I've written 2 of my own books, or 4 books since then. But, that was that first piece of really recognizing how important it was to talk about these things. And I think, again, getting support, which I love what you're doing, because you're supporting everybody on the planet, saying you need tools, you need other teachers, and you have to find the right teacher for you and the right modalities, because there is no one size fits all for healing. And I think that was when I grew up, I'm 67, there was one size fits all, and it's not true.
Yeah. No, I love the way the world is working now. Like, I get so excited because I think the internet is that physical manifestation that, there's how many websites, right? You will never be able to find them all. And there's always new applications and software and innovations and creativity. And that is how I really feel that each of us are. We're each unique, and we're going to be called to come together with different people at different times and and it's to experience it. It's to enjoy it. It's like being a kid and playing when you felt safe.
Right. Exactly. And I think that is the I think what you're saying, as far as the internet, this is the gift of the internet, and just even having Zoom right now, and this way that we can communicate from a distance, it really does make a huge difference. And because on the other spectrum, I've talked to many people who are so into texting that they've lost this contact. They don't know how to look at somebody eye to eye or have this kind of conversation. It's 140 characters. So what you're doing again is sharing with so many people that, that they may never have heard of, that here's a new tool. Here's a new idea, a new way to look at shift, so that you are healing from the inside out, which is the perfect, and we need this today, especially with the pain in the world, the way it is. We need more people who are willing to heal from the inside out, because that is how we will have global change. When we believe that, we are healed, one person at a time. That's how I look at it, that there's a ripple effect, because then you can bring that to your family, you bring it to work, you bring it to community, and then it goes to the world.
I was giggling when you said about the 140 characters, because I'm not a tweeter, but that just gave me another aha, because I do feel that the stuff that's been going on in the United States is that, as I've described it, because being here in Canada, you were always like Big Brother. Big Brother was stronger and brighter, and
right.
But when the pre-election stuff started, 2 years prior, it was like your closets were opened to the world, and everybody got to see, oh, there are some issues going on there. And that's all that it is. It's the United States is healing from the inside out. And when you said about 140 characters, your president is just mirroring what so many people are doing every day.
Right.
But he's just doing it on a bigger scale, and just as unconscious.
Yes, I totally get that. Yep. So
I find joy in it. Like I just, the
Oh,
whole,
that's interesting. I'm going to have to look at that as joy. I mean, I pretty much tune it out right now. I was at a meeting. I'm very interested in ending abuse across the lifeline. And so I'm active with a group called JCAS, which is a coalition against sex trafficking.
Mhm.
And last night we were all, we're joking. So nobody had turned on the news and they're like, well, did he start World War III, and those kind of things. And, but it's true. And you just don't know. And so, yeah, a little crazy.
yeah, but it's like that point is, as you said, as you are healing, you healed your heart, I heal my heart. We essentially have the universe in us, right?
Right. We are creators because we have been created by the whatever you call it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so in a turn, we're just bringing it all into wholeness. And we're, as you said, dominoes, ripple effect. And I honestly think like it's impossible to stop. Like that's the movement. But in the process, as you know, when you recognized and said, okay, when that moment you're on the bed and said, I'm choosing life, there was stuff to go through. Right? There was healing to do. So it's one thing to make a choice. It's like booking a trip. Right? You book the trip, but you still have the prep work. So you can book your healing.
Right.
But you
still have to do the work. And the work means, I sort of look at it, I have, ART is an acronym that I've used many times. A is the awareness piece, and aware of the stories you're telling yourself, but also aware of your gifts, your talents, your core values, all the good in you, where you've been courageous so that you can hone in on that. And then the R is about reframing those stories that we've been telling ourselves. And I look at that as, reach for a better thought, very much, Abraham Hicks, reach for a better thought. And you do that through surrender, through gratitude, through forgiveness. And so you've got to go through the process, and it's not always easy, and then the T is the transformation and transcendence, and that is being of service. I really believe that we have to be of service, just like you are sharing our stories. And it could be with one other person, in whatever form that is, because when we share our transformation, we give hope to other people. We are talking about issues that may not be comfortable for someone to hear. They've never heard it that way. And I believe the world is waiting for all of us to step up and share our truths.
And I would like you to share the A again. Just slow it down a little, because I think people went, oh, there was something good there.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to talk fast, especially when I'm excited.
I know, I do the same. But there was so much greatness in the A of art. You can do the whole art again, but just let's everybody just get present to what Ray is saying right now, because it's a gem.
Okay. A is awareness. Okay. And it's awareness of the stories you're telling yourself, where your wounds. I mean, you can't bypass it. There's no such thing, even though you may want to push it down and not deal with it, numb yourself out. But whatever you're carrying, the shame, the guilt, all those, you have to be aware of them. And I will give one tip right now, because I use scribbles and doodles. Literally get a box of crayons and go and close your eyes and ask, where's the pain? What shape is it? What color is it? What texture is it? And scribble it. That's the beginning. And it doesn't take you to be an artist, and you don't have to do anything, but your body has an incredible gift of wisdom to tell us exactly what we're feeling at the moment. And then the rest of it is acknowledging your gifts. You all are creative, beautiful beings. And we have to acknowledge that within ourselves and take the time. And if you can't do it for yourself, find someone who will support you in that dream, in finding out your beauty. Ask a friend, ask your coworkers, how have I made your life better? What are my gifts and talents? I can't just seem to see them today. I think, and another little one that I do is courage, because we have to tap into our courage, and you are definitely more courageous than you think. So go back in your life, and you can make a little timeline and imagine from the left, from childhood up, and in the right-hand corner, that's that's where you are superhero, and you can draw yourself as a little superhero. I am Wonder Woman. So I have this, and I have it on my website as part of my little info about who I am. So think about that. But where have you been courageous? And that means you stepped out of your comfort zone. Maybe you stood up to a bully. Maybe you actually said, you know what, I can't do that, or I ask for help. I mean, so many of us, especially women, think they have to do it all themselves. I am like that. This is one of my challenges to work through over and over up until now. But, you know, asking for help, you know, asking, you know, and that's a big one. And so that's courage, you know, and there are a lot of different ways you can look at courage. It isn't running into a burning building all the time. It is the courage to say no to someone, to set a boundary, to walk away from a relationship that wasn't good for you. I mean, and these are all hard things. And you may not look at that as courage, but it is courage. And so now you're starting to build this little toolbox for yourself of all the wonderful things. And think about, what are your core values? That's the other piece of awareness. And you want to start aligning with that. And you can play in the realm of, what are you passionate about? Thinking back, you know, what brings you joy? What brings a smile to your face? You know, there are so many ways to access passion and core values. You know, it's like over and over, what could you not live without? You know, and so that's the A part. And is that good?
That is good. I mean, there is so much there. I mean, I think if you don't have any colored pens or crayons at home, your objective is to go get yourself something, you know, that
the dollar store, we have them in the United States, dollar stores. So for two, you know, and at least, and if you want, buy a coloring book while you're there, because that's the other piece. When you're upset and you need a little stress release, you know, and calming, you can just sit with that same box of crayons at work. I always had one, tell everybody, pull one out. I mean, they're much more, you know, it's accepted today. When I was doing this 10 and 15 years ago, I was like, what? You know, but today everybody understands coloring books. But it's $2 that you've invested in yourself. And the ramifications will be huge, because that's self-care, that's self-love. And we need to do that for ourselves.
And you have our permission to color outside the lines.
Oh, totally. If you want to challenge yourself with your coloring book, imagine making each page different.
Ah.
I did that exercise. Somebody did that with me, and it was like, ooh, talk about getting out of your comfort zone and having, what are the rules? You know, well, there are no rules. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the more that people open up to the fact that they are a creator, right? And it's their creation is perfect because it's their creation.
Right.
You just look at the great artists. I mean, we have a whole range of mediums and textures and paintings, and they're very different. And you might like Van Gogh, but you certainly don't like Picasso, you know, or whatever.
Right. And you'll say, I could draw that. That looks like a kindergartner. So now, if you want to do, besides just doing the awareness piece, you know, in your body, this is what I start people with. Get a big piece of paper, big one, not just a little one,
right,
and your box of crayons or markers or whatever you want to use. Tape down your paper, take one crayon and put it in your non-dominant hand.
Okay.
Close your eyes and scribble. Now, how can you judge yourself? Your eyes are closed and you're using your non-dominant hand. So just make a mark on the paper and just continue to do that. And then if you want, then you add a second color and you do the same thing. Then when you feel complete, now you can do this to music, you can do it to the quiet, you can do whatever you want. Then I want you to open your eyes and color. And again, if you're coloring inside the lines, color outside the lines.
See, that's interesting, because I immediately felt like my left hand, which would be in my non-dominant hand, it wasn't like I was just going to hold the pen. I was going to clench the...
Interesting. Well, when you're doing this, most people start with just their wrist. Then, you know, as when people work with me, I lead them so that they become conductors. You know, I mean, you are big, broad movements. We change the music. I have you use your whole arm. I may have you stand up and use your whole body. So there are levels, but this was just the first piece that people can do at home easily, you know, so.
Now, you do this obviously in Chicago, but do you do this online?
I have at different times. I coach individually, you know, so anybody, look, I've got like 10 slots available for free coaching right now. So if you want one free coaching session, you can contact me at ray@thewinningadventure.com. So you can do that. And that's what I'm opening up to the people on this call, because I know they're calling and needing that. I'm also going to be doing some group coaching. We talked about a follow-up to this program, and I think I could carry people, from in the next couple months to go through some of these exercises in a way that I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Are you guys excited? I'm excited because I can see that there, I just grabbed my.
Right. And it's very simple, but
you're not going to have us like creating in the nude or anything like that.
No, this is literally just simple art and there'll be other prompts, but I really think, I'm just going to tell you one of the exercises I would have you do. There'll be a meditation, and these will be short things that you can do. We'll have to talk further about creating a Facebook group to post our work and stuff like that and go forward. But I'd love to support people doing this, because I think there are so many ways we can do this. And what I do, I bring to that fun, creative aspect to it, so you will be using collage materials. We're going to be, ripping paper and doing all sorts of fun things, so that's how I look at this. So, yeah.
And I guess for some of you that are maybe a little bit more traditional in this, that are listening, that are feeling like you weren't an artist or never were an artist, because that was where I was at, I can just tell you that, just over 3 years ago, my daughters and I, we took this big piece of paper on a 6-foot table. We knew we were being led to move. And I wrote, because that's how creative I was, in a, like one of those spread out like a star. They colored and they created what they said. We said, what do we want our new house to look like? And we thought we were going North Canada or West Canada, but we ended up, when we tuned in, we were led to Eastern Canada here in Prince Edward Island. And my agnostic perfectionist father, 86-year-old father, had to say, wow, it's like there's an intelligence in the universe. Woo! So there is something to releasing and surrendering and letting go and creating, because we're all creators. So you're going to let the creator out.
Right. And, I've used this process for a long time. I haven't quite done it on the scale and the way we're talking, because I've done workshops, actual in live workshops, but we're going to play. And that's what it's all about. Play, explore, and experiment, and see how we can do this through this new medium, of the internet. And I feel like that is my passion and calling for the next 3 months to the winter solstice. How's that?
Awesome. This is lovely. I love you. I'm so glad you came to share with us. I think everybody's all excited and they're going to the dollar store, Walmart, or wherever you call it in Europe or Australia. But just
buy whatever costs you. I would love for you to get as big a notebook, a sketchbook as you can. Most people are going to come home with this little teeny one, but I want you to have a bigger one, and get colored pencils, get glitter sticks, scissors, all, and start collecting, and if you have magazines, rip out pictures that you like, color, just even pages of color. So we're going to play, and each, I don't know how we're going to work out the details yet, but we're going to play, and we're going to build this community of people who want to be that healed heart with the art.
I think we're just going to end it there, because that was so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us, Ray. And I look forward to our healed hearts creating more healed hearts, and we're healing from the inside out.
Sounds great. Thank you. Bye.